Hello everyone, when mentioning the Russian Federation, we often think of a large country with a great history and a long-standing culture. This is where massive architectural works converge, both modern European and classically luxurious, such as the Winter Palace, Ostankino Tower, Red Square. People also remember President Vladimir Putin, the leader respected by many people in the land of birch trees, famous vodka, nicknamed Silly Russia, wandering bears everywhere, or a cold land with girls considered to be the most beautiful in the world. However, in fact, Russia also contains countless interesting things that you may not have known. Let's explore Russia with Travel Explore the World in this video. Russia was bigger. Today, the Russian Federation is the world's largest country, stretching across the northern part of the Eurasian supercontinent and covering a total area of more than 17.125 million km. To put that in perspective, Russia's territory is more than twice the size of the next two countries, the United States and Canada, combined, and covers about 8.7% of the Earth's total land area. Even if you exclude the frigid Siberia region, which accounts for 77% of Russia's land area, the remaining area is still 4 million km, or 40% of Europe. But that's just now. Between 1721 and 1917, under the Russian Empire, the country's territory was even larger, at more than 22.8 million km, including part of North America, Alaska, later ceded to the United States. At that time, Russia was the third largest empire in history, behind only the British Empire, 35.5 million km in 1920, and the Mongol Empire, 24 million km. Despite its enormous size, Russia was at a disadvantage in connecting with the world by sea. With a coastline of more than 37,000 kilometers along the Arctic, Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, most of Russia's seaports were frozen for many months of the year, except for those on the Black Sea. This partly explains President Putin's ambition to annex the Crimean Peninsula, especially since it has an important naval base in Sevastopol. Energy and mineral superpower, with an estimated total value of natural resources of $75 trillion, nearly double that of the United States, and 3 times that of China, Russia is the world's most resource-rich country. Russia leads the world in crude oil production, with an output of 9.87 million barrels per day and reserves of more than 80 billion barrels, accounting for 18% of the world's oil supply. In terms of gas, Russia also dominates, with reserves of 50.62 trillion cubic meters, equivalent to a quarter of the world's total. The dependence of many countries, especially Europe, on Russian oil and gas has turned the country into a powerful economic force. In addition, Russia ranks 5th in the world in coal production, with reserves of 175 billion tons, mainly in Siberia and the Ural Mountains. Russia's fishing industry ranks 4th globally, while the country is consistently among the top 3 precious metal producers, leading in diamonds and palladium, accounting for 1/3 of rough diamond production, and supplying half of global palladium and platinum through Alrosa. Russia also has the world's largest forest area, with timber revenues reaching $20 billion per year. While the Amazon is considered the green lungs of the earth but accounts for only 1% of the total number of trees on the planet, Russia owns 20% with about 640 billion trees, mainly in Siberia. The birch, Russia's national tree, is not only a symbol but also an inspiration for the country's literature and art. The Russian Federation, an asymmetrical federation. The Russian Federation is currently one of the most complex political systems in the world. It is an asymmetrical federation of 89 federal-level administrative entities, divided into 8 federal districts created by President Putin in 2000 to strengthen central control. These entities include 1 Jewish autonomous oblast, 3 federal cities, 4 autonomous regions, 9 territories, 48 provinces and 24 republics. The republics have a high degree of autonomy, with their own constitutions, official languages and national anthems, and were established in the early 20th century after the collapse of the Russian Empire. However, since the 2000s, Putin's centralizing reforms have gradually eliminated the autonomy of most of the republics, with the exception of Chechnya, which was granted special autonomy to maintain stability after the war. Russia, nation of women. Unlike many countries such as China, which has a surplus of men and a shortage of women. Russia has a higher ratio of women to men. 100 women have only 86.15 men, compared to 99.5 men, 100 women in Vietnam. This difference stems from World War II, when 25 million Russian soldiers died, and afterwards. The average life expectancy of Russian men was only 66.5 years, much lower than that of women, 76.43 years. The main reasons are the harsh lifestyle in the countryside, the abuse of vodka, violence, and poor healthcare. Vodka is not only a drink to warm the body but also a friend to relieve stress for Russian men. However, Russian women are always given priority according to the unspoken rule of lady first, from receiving flowers regardless of the occasion to being served food first. The Russian mafia's haunting. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Russian mafia has grown into a formidable underground force, with about 300,000 members and thousands of organizations, 300 of which are international in scope, operating in more than 50 countries. They are involved in money laundering, arms and drug trafficking, stock market manipulation, and cause tens of thousands of murders each year. The Russian mafia controls about 10% of private enterprises and part of the country's banking system, with the participation of both former spies and military officers. Lake Karachay, the radioactive umbrella of death. Lake Karachay in the Ural Mountains was once a clear blue lake, but since 1951, it has been a radioactive waste site for the Mayak plant, which produced plutonium for the Soviet atomic bomb. After the Kyshtym disaster in 1957 and the drought of 1960, the lake was so severely polluted that just standing for 30 minutes could expose a person to 600 roentgen of radiation, enough to cause death. The lake was sealed with concrete from 1978 to 2015 to prevent further disasters. The mystery of the woman who gave birth to 69 children. Valentina Vassilieva, a Russian peasant who lived from 1707–1782, is credited with giving birth to 69 children in 27 births, 16 twins, 7 triplets, 4 quadruplets. Although listed in the Guinness Book of Records, the story remains controversial because of its feasibility in the context of 18th century rural Russia. The roof of Europe, Mount Elbrus. Mount Elbrus, with an altitude of 5,642 m, is the highest peak in Europe, located in Russia. This is a dormant volcano, famous for its majestic landscape and mysterious stories, attracting 10,000 climbers every year. The first country to send a man into space. On April 12, 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first person to fly into space on the Vostok 1 spacecraft, marking a turning point in the history of space exploration for Russia and humanity. Those are interesting facts about the Russian Federation, a majestic but surprising country. Hello and see you again.